Paul, you know what? You've opened up a can of worms in my head. You really have. You know what I want to do is, I got to aim this down a little bit. Whenever I talk down, it gets a little echo sounding. I do this a lot, and it sounds goofy. All right. Boy, there's a lot to cover. I'm going to go off the deep end here. I'm going to explain some things or say some things and talk about things I've never put on a video before because it just goes so deep. Boy, where do I begin? Anyone else watching? My name is Dan Paulson. You're observing a conversation between me and somebody else, and I'm going to be exposing something that is in Abrahamic material that is right in our hands that we don't see because we don't have it memorized. But as I use the computer, you're going to see something emerge here that's a numbering pattern that is going to lead us another direction on examination of this work. I want to show something here that people are not aware of. You don't know this, you don't see it. When you look at it, you're going to go, what the hell is that? Okay, first of all, these are the numbers right here. What you're seeing is a collection of numbers in an elaborate process gathered in Genesis. I call it the 3-7 grid. It starts at 3 and 7. If you'll notice, there's a lot of repeats in the Bible of numbers. And what it breaks down to is this collection of numbers. Do you see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 12, 15, 17, 20. 30, 40, 41, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Just in case you're using a handheld device and can't read this, those are the numbers. Those 22 numbers are gathered up in analog forms. There's a weird numbering sequence going on. 920 years, and so lived 904 years. And all of these, and then 900 is repeated 7 times. Okay, that's a different video, but here's what I need to show you. These 22 numbers right here, once they're gathered in Genesis, these 22 numbers are repeated over 6,052 times in the Bible. If you see number repeats, that's what you're seeing right there. Some may stand out more than others, but when you read enough, you're going to say, boy, how come everybody has 3 daughters and 7 sons? Or actually, I won't rattle those off. I'll just go and show some. Okay, so those numbers right there. First of all, we just did a couple of videos recently. Remember the Luke 7:47? What do we have? The numbers right here are representing a time in life that's pure. When you're a child, a pure state. 7:47, the woman, all of her sins were forgiven because she loved much. So we're going, and where is that? It's in a micro and a macro numbering system, a chapter and a verse. Chapter 7. What do we have? 3-7 grid. Verse 47. You take 40 and 7, you can combine the two. And we're right here at pure state. There's something happening right in our face that we don't recognize in the numbering pattern. That's a very simple and easy one to observe. What else did we have? The 50 and the 500. We've got 50 right here. That was gathered up right there in the Sodom analog farm, where righteous is repeated 7 times to gather it. Would you destroy it for the sake of 50 if there were 50 righteous within the city? No, not for 50 righteous. That sequence, and 50 is repeated 4 times. It's one of the numbers gathered up, and it's used here. It's going to be repeated. 50 is one of the numbers that are used, and 500, you're right, times 10. But there's a numbering pattern that is existing for a reason. At first you will look at it and go, I see it. I don't know what it is. It's really weird. It's taken me years of analysis to figure out what they're doing, and I still don't have it all figured out. But you can see this right here. Now, it's not that simple because at the time these were written, there were no chapters and verses. Those were added in after the fact. So you're like, okay, wait a minute. How can that story be true? The chapters and verses weren't even there. The story is written and it follows a flow without the chapters and verses in place. It follows the flow of life. It follows a particular sequence. And all they're doing is coming along when Stephen Langton in more recent times, 500-600 years ago, you have to look it up. He's the one that put those in. And the story goes is that he put them in because now that people were beginning to communicate from longer distances, letters and things like that, you would be questioning about the Bible. Well, so-and-so, I'm corresponding to my friend in another country or across the nation or something. What do you think about If you're talking about John and verses or something like that, you could, what do you think about John 3:16? What's your interpretation? They know they can go exactly there. So it made it easy for people to correspond back and forth instead of just saying, what do you think about that for God so loved the world part? And then they don't, we're reading it. We don't have a memorized. So you have to, there's something deeper. Okay. But there's a pattern being followed that you would know is there only if you had it memorized. Without it being memorized, you can't see the pattern. Langton put the chapters and verses in places where the pattern is there. Have you ever looked at the verses and wondered why sometimes there's a long verse that's a sentence or two in length? And then suddenly there's a short one that doesn't even finish the sentence, and another one that doesn't finish it, and another one that doesn't finish it. We'll see that through some of the material here. What is he doing? What if you were creating that? Wouldn't you just number each sentence? Why would you number one sentence and then break other ones up? What he's doing is he's forcing the numbers, and he's forcing the text that's the pure text to be in 7. If it's in the third sentence, but it's the 7th concept, he's breaking out the concepts and putting it at number 7. It is so hard to see that. You have to interpret this before you see that. So the numbering pattern is incredibly crucial. It helps us navigate things if we find it. And Langton, honestly, when he's doing that numbering system, he's doing much more. It did two purposes. Now that I look at it, I realize he did two things. He helped people talk about it, but at a deeper level, he's pointing the way to the sequence, to the pattern that we don't know because we don't have it memorized. He's jogging our memories. The chapters and verses is Langton's way of saying, hello, McFly. Okay, that's a little over the top. And to me, this is kind of what helps us link into it. That if we read in Genesis, remembering now that the chapters and verses were not there in the beginning. It did not start out chapter 1, chapter 2, and verses. It just was a story flow. You had to know it. You had it memorized. Those were added in by Langton 500 years ago. Archbishop of Canterbury, Catholic. He knows what's going on. The Catholics know what's going on behind the scene. What does he do as you read this? You will read, first of all, you should notice two things. There are two creation stories, and they even sound different authors. One of them is like an electronics, calling it in, and then it is. Let there be, and so it was. Let there be, and so it was. Let there be, and so it was. That's what happens all through the first creation story. It's that style, a doublet. And it finishes where? In chapter 2, verse 3. Why did Langton overlap it there? That's the finish of the first style. Chapter 2 should start at number 4. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth. Look what he's doing. He's putting the 3 and the 7 said 3 times, and the 3 all combined right there. He's teaching us what to do with code, but we have to look at it and say, what the hell is he doing? That's not right. Then you look at it and look at it and look at it and go, he's doing it on purpose. He's pointing. It's a pointer for us. All right, as a teaching tool or as an example of what they're doing, I've made up something so rudimentary that this is very easy to see what's going on. Let me read this right here. It's going to sound goofy, but just listen through. 7 isn't a 3. It's more than twice a 3. 3 doesn't even match half of what a 7 can be. Not if it's a 3. 3 combined with another 3 cannot be more than a 3 when it comes to the strength of a 7. All right, sounds goofy. It doesn't mean anything, does it? If you were to look, though, you see that 3, if we were to check here, is repeated 7 times in this. And 7, if we look, is repeated exactly 3 times. So what we're doing here is we're utilizing a verbal technique, a coded technique, to make those numbers the same thing. I have now told 7 and 3 that you are the same thing, but you would have to know this story so deeply memorized that you would know how many times those are repeated. Now, do that to a Bible story. We're not there. How many times are nouns and verbs repeated? Are they doing this? Let's go to Matthew. When you're looking for these counts on your own, I will forewarn you to only use the King James Version for these counts. They've been modified in later versions. People don't know they're there. Or if they do, they're purposefully hiding them. Okay, this is the book of Matthew, King James Version. What I'm going to do first is take a look at some numbers. What is 3? 3 is repeated 12 times in the book of Matthew. What about 7? 12 times. What about 12? 12 times. Okay, we see that number pattern is happening. They're repeating the numbers a specific amount of times to ensure that you know that they're on that grid. They mean the same thing. Take a look at something. The book of the generation of the son of David. What is David here? Exactly 17 times. That's off of our list as a good thing. What about Abraham? 7 times. Bear in mind that whoever is authoring this is keeping a very specific count of these names. Here we've got Isaac. 4. Jacob. You see what's happening? 6 times exactly. How about Judas? Do you see Judas over there? We need a negative element. Judas 8. Look at our list. That's circumcision day. Do you see that? I'm going to do a super bounce. You don't have to understand this. I just want to keep showing these numbers. This is Ezekiel, and I'm going to claim that it's a monomyth. If we don't understand what a monomyth is at this point, and I don't think many people do, that's okay. But know that this is. But take a look at what's happening at the numbers here. We got 30th. We've got 4th. We've got 5th. 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 5th is repeated 3 times even within this section. So we've got 5th cross-referencing itself. We're going to have to cross a threshold. The threshold is a dangerous crossing. I was among the captives by the river of Chebar. Chebar. Let's go see what happens if we look up Chebar. Chebar occurs exactly 8 times here in the book of Ezekiel. Now, right off the bat, what I see is there's the beginnings of a monomyth. There's a calling, there's a pure state in the beginning, and there's a crossing of a threshold of a negative place that has to happen. This is going to take us on an adventure in the mind of healing. This creature here that we look at, this is us. This is not an alien ship. It's very cryptic. It's very cryptic, but it's us. The things that turn and spin and have all that hold all kinds of things, that all the different wheels, those are the cycles of things, that the decisions, the pain, the things like that. We have become that. They're putting it in a very incredibly colorful way here, but you look for those elements, wheels spinning around with the things inside of them that make them spin, and all of that, the 4 sides. Think of the 4 rivers out of Eden. And actually, if you look right here at verse number 3, 3 is, remember, that's our large and small grid, micro, macro. And you see that it's not even broke. It's broke up in this way. In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th day of the King Jehoiakim's activity, the word of the Lord came expressly to the priest. See, he broke that up right there, and it wasn't a complete sentence. He did the first one. He did the 4th one. He did not the 2nd and 3rd one. Why? He wanted this right here. The return of the Lord. This is when God comes back to Noah, or when God comes back to Abraham. That's this point on the template. God is coming to Boozy. You become this person right here if you are going on this adventure. This becomes your story, and it is your turn. It is now, you're the pure person. It is now your time to turn inward and cross the river and begin your adventure. You are a product of all those thousands of eyes that make the judgments that make life cycle the way that it does. That's how it works. It's going to be very cryptic. And when you get done, at least for me, you get to a point where you understand and you figure out the mental interaction and how big of a grand story it is, holding the idea that, all of these creatures, this dangerous river to cross. And if I know the story, it tells me. If I don't know for sure, Chebar, is that a good or a bad thing? It's repeated 8 times. It's a bad thing. So it's encoded. If you know the code, it'll help you navigate this story. It's almost like a dictionary that provides you the value or the weight of the analog. Wine, is it good or bad? Naked, is it good or bad? That kind of stuff. Death, is it good or bad? Is it death in the physical world or death in the spiritual world? Oh, it's good to die unto yourself. That's unto your old self. So the numbers are actually repeated in the story's amount of time that's going to tell you the difference if you don't know for sure. And when you find that in here, you're like, holy smokes. We don't know anything. We really don't. We're all over the outside creating a monstrous, incredible, outward-looking story that goes beyond the story itself. The stories themselves are fantastical, and by the time we get done with them, we've heaped more upon them. And that is adding to the story. That's actually not interpreting the story. All right, so let me see. Where do I want to go next? I wanted to show that numbering pattern is there and that it is everywhere. I will also say, however, upon interpretation of the story, it becomes an inward and not an outward path. All of the supernatural drops. Natural kicks in. The processes must be engaged with. That's why perhaps I get so critical about the, you're doing God's work, you're doing the Lord's work, or Jesus is helping you or saving you or something like that. It's like, you know what? If you don't drop all of that stuff and look at yourself and say, you know what? You have to freaking mentally interact with this. There's nothing that's going to do anything for you. You must do it in your head. You've got to take care of it. If you're turning it over to something somewhere, you're not getting it done. You're carrying it. So to me, it's very critical to say, no, it's up to you. There's no Jesus, there's no God that's gracing you or helping you. If you don't do it yourself, you're not going to get it done. Look at it this way. You're not worthy if you don't do it. If you can't follow the footsteps, who are you? Somebody that wants to follow but really can't. You have to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to deal with this stuff. I am going to resolve that ought. If it's there and I think to myself, nobody knows this. It's in my mind. Nobody knows it. I think I probably don't even act it out. I feel about it sometimes, but that's it. It's not resolved. There's this story in the Gospel of Philip about the man, the illustrated man, how as long as his intestines are inside, the man stands upright and lives. But if the intestines come out, the person dies. There's a comparison there then with somewhere in, I don't remember if it's in Matthew or somewhere, about a tree that's being cut down. Not only will a tree cut down sprout again, it'll sprout again if it's cut down, but only if it's pulled out by the root will it stop. And then it goes on and says, and so it is within the evil within each one of us. We must reach in and pluck it out as long as it's there. And that's references what? It goes on further to say that many people went in and did it partially, while Jesus went in and cleared out the whole place. The purity comes in saying, you know what, take a glass of water on a hot summer day, a pure glass of water, compared to something you scooped out of the animal trough that's brown. You got worms swimming in it. One's pure, one's yucky. One's pure, one's yucky. Set the yucky one down, pick up some dung and sprinkle it in the pure glass. Hold them up side by side. Which one do you want to drink out of? You have a preference, but which one do you want to drink out of? Suddenly they're not pure. Pure is pure. Not pure is not pure. What does that take? Not even the smallest amount of dung sprinkled in. That's damn tough. All right, so let's take a look. What I'm going to suggest here is that Paul knows what he's doing. Paul is doing the same thing. Let's take a look. Let's bring up Romans. King James Version right here. Shoot. There we go. Now let me get to it where I can maneuver it around. There we go. Right off the bat. Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ, called to be an apostle separated unto the gospel of God, which he had promised afore by his prophet in the Holy Scriptures, concerning his Son, Jesus Christ our Lord, which was made of the seed of David according to the flesh, and declared to be the Son of God with power according to the Spirit of holiness by the resurrection of the dead, by whom we have received grace and apostleship for obedience to the faith among all nations for his name, among whom are you also called of Jesus Christ, to all that be in Rome, beloved of God, called to be saints, grace to you and peace from God, our Father, and the Lord Jesus Christ. Then the story begins. First, I thank you. So this ends up on number 7 down here. See that 1 through 7? But also take a look. It's being broken up by Langton, not in sentences, but by concepts. And it finishes up on 7. And what's on 3? 3, 7. Concerning his son, Jesus Christ, our Lord, which was made the seed of David according to the flesh. So what we're seeing here, if you know what to look for, is that there are positive things happening in 7. Typically, 8's going to be a breakdown, but I don't see that right here. What do we have? First, I thank my God through Jesus Christ for you all, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. Okay, so I don't see that. That would normally be a first sin location, but I don't see that happening. Paul is doing something a little bit differently with the material. Paul is not simply trying to teach a cryptic path with some sort of a virtuous life to live. Paul is nesting the same teaching, however, he's doing it very specifically in a manner to create Christianity itself. He's choosing verbiage in such a way to very specifically create Christianity. He still has the teaching nested in there. However, it's through Romans where we begin to see, I'm not going to go look it all up right now. If you read through just the first couple of chapters, you don't see it in one place, but you'll see things about, having faith in Jesus Christ, our Father, that, that he's came to save us and all that kind of stuff, that all of these are requirements to be Christians. And that's what people tend to go for. Somehow they cherry picked it. This becomes a condensed sort of an idea that if I believe in Jesus Christ, that he's the Son of God. He was born of a virgin. He died on the cross to save me from my sins. And if I believe on him, then I have everlasting life. Bingo, that's all they have to do. Some don't even do that much. They don't think it through that far. They just believe in God and Jesus and rah, rah, let's go kill the fags. All of that is still a part of life that has to do with become a Christian. And there are people who don't do that don't believe that are Christians, but there are people that do. The fact of the matter is this: to become a Christian, you can have values or not. We've already been all over all of that. I can sit here and listen to people that have better values than other Christians tell me that they're not the real Christians. But I sit back here and I listen to both of them come at me saying, we're Christians, we're Christians. What am I to do? I look at one umbrella. So you have to look at it from the perspective of other people, that if you're a Christian, you're a part of Christianity. And if other Christians are doing it wrong, how come they're not being policed by Christians? I have to look at it and go, well, they're all Christians. They're all meeting the criteria that Paul set forth. Paul could have set forth stricter requirements. He taught the nested path. He's teaching that it doesn't matter whether you believe in God or not, whether you're Jew or Gentile, that it's really the effect of you. Let's go look at his material, actually. Let's go first of all look for that numbering pattern and see if it's there. All right, so by now what I've learned is that anybody that is working in the background and creating the Abrahamic material from Genesis, earliest on, it actually precedes that, but from Genesis on, it continues to be in use all the way through the New Testament, all the way to the end of the Bible, all the way down to Revelation as well. So, in fact, I can even show that. But at this point right here, we've got Romans, King James Version up on the desk. So let's take a look at a couple of things. Jesus Christ, number one. How many times is Jesus Christ going to be repeated? Paul is going to be maintaining a pattern that is going to be, he's not making it up. He's being held to adherence to a pattern. So Jesus Christ is repeated exactly 27 times throughout this letter. That combines 20 and 7 together. Let's continue to look and see what we have. There's some things down in here I want to see, like David in verse number 3. How many times is David repeated? Exactly 3 times. We've got, let's see, Son of God. Just at one time. How about Spirit? 33 times. So we got a combination of 30 and 3. Resurrection. Just twice. Dead. 26 times. Resurrection and declared to the Son of God with the power according to the Spirit of holiness by the resurrection from the dead. 26, I'm not certain of what he's doing there. I do see a 20 and a 6 off of the template, though, so perhaps it's just right in place. Okay, verse 5, received grace. What about just grace? Twenty and 4. About faith. I'm trying to find some things that are, let's see, gift. Exactly 10 times. Ignorant. Three times. Wow. Now I would not have you ignorant, brethren, that oftentimes I purposed to come unto you, but was let that I might have some fruit among you also, even as among other Gentiles. I'd have to analyze that, but that's an interesting one. Okay, gospel. Wow, 13 times. That does not sound right. There's something going on. I haven't analyzed this story. But I can say this. He's repeating patterns. All right, I just had one of those aha moments. I'm going through this and I was editing and I saw that again and it was like, boy, that's just a bizarre thing. All right, this has been repeated before. It's the blind leading the blind. The Pharisees are teaching the material. They're not interpreting it. They're not allowing others to enter who want to enter in. They're not feeding those who are hungry, nor are they themselves eating. There's this idea that if you're teaching the material as if it is factual, as if it is the religious shell, you're doing the wrong thing. He's saying right here, the gospel is the wrong thing. The gospel is not the right thing. It's 13. You must turn inward. He's whap. Hello, McFly. But we don't know it. If we had time to think it through, we'd go, okay, that's what he's telling us. If you're worshiping this material, you haven't entered the narrow gate with it. Exactly 4 times. Heaven. Twice. Manifest. Manifest. Manifest is the effect of cause and effect. Invisible. Just the one. Eyes 5 times. Law. 78. And 8 would be a lot. 8 would be a bad thing. So I'm not sure. Again, we would need to analyze it. I see circumcision repeated a number of times down here. 1, 2, 3 right there. So let me just, I know that one's going to be counted. Circumcision. I'm going to go make sure I don't have an uncircumcision. So that shows me 16 times circumcision is used, which would be what? 1 after 15. 15 is pure. 16 is a time you would, that's after that. In the same way that 7 is pure, 8 is the next step after that the circumcision would happen. So it's following the numbering sequence by just advancing 1 from a pure place to, we start pure and then we go off and have judgments. That's what's called first sin. Glory. 18. Glory's a bad thing. Seeking glory. All right. what I'm going to do right off the bat is, I mean, if I just keep going through there, at some point I go, that can't be coincidence, that Paul is utilizing a same sequence, that there's something going on in the background that's bigger than the religion, that the religion is being created in such a way then and has been for a long time as to influence the population and to keep people focused and busy on that. So to be honest, as I'm watching some of your videos, it's hearkening back for me into that time of teaching the material as Paul intended it, perhaps for religious understanding. And as far as religious understanding, to me, you're a person that's to me, doctrine goes all over the place. I've listened to people and it just goes, it really comes down to, I listen to them and I think this is just what they want it to be. It's their personal belief. They're turning it into them. There's very few times where you yourself as an individual who understands or utilizes Jesus' teachings in such a way that they're somehow interactive and to mean something purposeful and not just a worship thing. When you recognize that in other people, you see something in them and you're doing that. You are utilizing Jesus as not, you're not just looking at him and saying, I trust Jesus. I believe in Jesus. That's what I'm told. There's a teaching that's deeper that is not what the church teaches. So Paul is nevertheless maintaining that teaching. Let's go take a look at Revelation real quick. I'm going to show you something there. All right, here we are on Revelation, again, King James Version. I put these asterisks in just, I do that just in case I'm searching for words. I don't want to add in any counts. I know James and Version are not going to be here. Okay, what do we have here? You can see that Jesus Christ is repeated 7 times in the book of Revelation. John 5 times. As we get down through here, some of the things I'm seeing is this. This is my 3-7 grid. Look at that 7. And what I spot is a very commonly recurring motif. What do I do when I look back on Genesis? Right in the beginning, this started the very first 7-3 grid. And not only did Langton number that, he also numbered this. Right here we have 7 set on verse 3 in chapter 2 of the first creation story. So to me it's like, is that the Alpha and the Omega we're looking for here? We've got a number of those all going on, the beginning and the end. If I go back to Revelation, I see it number 3, blessed, is repeated 7 times. So there's this really nested idea that there's a numbering pattern in the background that's indeed being followed, that we can follow, that we can find. It's providing something that if you understood what it was, it would help you navigate the material. But the material is incredibly, incredibly old, and we don't look at it in the right way. We're really stuck in our modern biases. We don't quite see how these work. But we're very quick today to just worship them and call it good, when in all reality there's something incredibly intense in here that requires a lot of work and a lot of intense life experience and day-to-day activity, life choices, and observation of life experiences with people, making changes, adjustments, healing, forgiving, observing, all of it that comes into play to create the changes in one's life. That is something that I see in the background. What else do I want to say in this video? Do you see that numbering pattern? It's absolutely there. It is intense. Look at any book. I would just suggest you download King James versions of the Bible and start looking at all of them. Look through those numbers. I'll post the numbers down below in the little in my comment or the about section or whatever, so that you have them available. Just go look, not just for those numbers where they appear. Job had 7 sons and 3 daughters. The male-female component right there. You're going to see that in Genesis quite a bit. Abram and Sarai. Abram is, 90? That's one of the numbers. No, I can't recall actually when he starts. Sarai is 17. No, her name is repeated 17 times. That's it. Those things are nested in the background that you wouldn't know unless you had it memorized, or you do like this. You just keep going through the computer, keep searching and searching. Try that word, then that word, that word, that word, that word. You keep looking and go, oh my God. They just keep repeating these in those same the same amounts. All right, and this is something that just emerges through curiosity and seeing something. I did a recent video. I'll put a link below to that one. It's really how to gather these numbers and it's just the ones I saw as a kid that I asked, how come everything is 3, 7, and 40? And I was told that's just how long it was, 3 7s and 40s. And I always thought, nope, there's something wrong. There's too many 3 7s and 40s. There actually ended up being 22 numbers over 6,000 times. There was a lot more that I even saw as a kid. If you read these a lot, you should see a lot of repetitive numbers. And if you look, you will often see, you will probably see that the numbers that you see that are repetitive are coming right off of this list, right here, that are developed in analog farms in Genesis. And they're developed as a purpose. It's like, if you can imagine, it's going to sound sacrilegious, but just imagine this. Imagine that you have a video game to play. However, it has to be in memory. So the memory card is up here. You have to, first of all, completely memorize the game. This is the video game. It has a playing field. The playing field is your imagination. Every character is you. Even in that 747 story, who was the Pharisee? It's a part of us that has doubts. It's a part of us that says, nope, I don't want to do it. Or it's a part of our inner being that loses out because the woman who loved much defeated the Pharisee who didn't love as much. Although the Pharisee knew better. Actually, that's a story. That's not really happening. It's a setup to a story teaching you that the idea is this, that you must humble yourself completely. Washing the feet from the hair, head to foot. I don't know. There's some symbolism there that we could talk about as far as purging. But the idea, honestly, is this. Whatever you're holding up here that is bothersome to you, that's it. Don't worry about the hair. Don't worry about the feet, what they mean. They're going to point to this idea up here that you must wash this away. You must have the humility to bow down, to look at these things, to drop the ego, and to resolve the inner issues. And that through much love is what it's going to take right there. That's the takeaway lesson. The rest of the story is helping us learn that, as well as telling us that it's not just the big stuff, it's the little stuff too. The person who forgives, the one who feels the best, loves the most, is the one that forgives the most. You don't just forgive the little things. You got to get rid of that big stuff, the stuff that it's the scariest stuff of all. You will feel so good. Yeah, it's a lesson about that, a lesson about healing. I think one of the most important things to try to convey is what this monomyth is. I use the term, and it's complex, it's deep, it's something that it took me forever to see, to find. I kind of discovered it on my own. Somebody told me one time, you're doing the Joseph Campbell stuff. And I was like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I got his book, The Hero of 1,000 Faces. I read a couple of things. I started going through it, and I thought, I'm not doing anything like this. I don't know what that person is talking about. Okay, so here's what I finally learned later as I get done with mine, and I learn enough to figure out Joseph Campbell was onto something. He had something going on. This is his template. What I'm going to suggest here is we've got 17 stages of the Joseph Campbell monomyth. This is what he identified, and let me go through them, and then let's talk about them a little bit. First of all, there's a call to adventure. This is going to move in a counterclockwise direction here. And this is actually you. There's a separation, there's an initiation, and a return section. We're going to start off with a call to adventure. Not many people are going to do this. You're going to be the rare person. You're going to refuse the call. Something's going to happen. Cyclical pain, maybe, or you just don't want to go. You're going to need supernatural aid according to this template. And you're going to cross the first threshold. Then you're going to be in the belly of the whale. You will be on a road of trials. You'll be a meeting with the goddess. There's temptation. Atonement with the Father. This should be apotheosis, atonement or attainment of your goal. The ultimate boon, there it is right there. Refusal of the return. You don't want to go home. Magic flight. You get some kind of rescue from without. Crossing the return threshold. Master of two worlds, and freedom to live life. This is a life journey template. However, it sounds really weird. What is crossing the threshold? What is road of trials? What is a meeting with the goddess and atonement with the Father? Yeah, there's some strange things here, and Joseph Campbell left it very nebulous. All right, first of all, this is how he came up with his template. He studied. He was all about global myths and religions. He read it all. He's not a religious individual. He's this super nice, super open-minded, very well-educated, super intelligent thinker that's great at telling stories. He's a wonderful storyteller. And as he looked at these stories, he began to notice something very common about them. There's a lot of common motifs, but eventually he read them enough. He realized it's not just a couple of big things. It's a bunch of small things too. They can sound radically different from each other, but there's a point where Jason is sailing through the clashing rocks with Hera's help and barely making it. He recognizes that as the same place as Moses running through the Red Sea with God's help, barely making it. He begins to see common motifs that don't sound like, oh, that's a flood story. That proves the flood happened. It begins to be other sorts of things, a destruction of the world, destruction of the city. Somehow there's a pattern of something. It starts out good. It goes bad. We need to turn inward. There's a called person. So he sees a pattern like that and he writes it down, but it's left so nebulous that you can't mentally interact with this template at all. But there are steps here. Crossing the threshold is facing your memories. It's a very specific mentally interactive step that does not need to remain so nebulous. However, if you're writing a story, that's what you want. Facing your memories is hard. Okay, write a story about the dangers of going through this, barely making it, maybe going through a mountain pass and avalanches coming in and people are dying along the way. You barely make it. You get through there. And, something like that. You're crossing a threshold and it's very difficult. But in doing so, you have to have God's help, no matter what. The reason is you're connecting with the higher awareness. In order to allow the consciousness to know, you don't need to experience this feeling. Or if you do experience it, it's okay. I'm here to be the bigger self that you can keep stepping up to in order to face these memories. So you have to have God help cross that dangerous threshold. Hera helped, God helped. If you write a story, whoever the creator, the master, the overall God is, has to help cross that threshold. All right, I want to stop and back away from that for a second. We're going to get back to it. But what this is right here is a template that starts in your life. If you're let me put it this way. We all have two lives. And the second one begins the moment we realize we only have one life. That's the moment when you go, what have I done with myself? What can I do to change? What can I do to improve? I've lived my life feeling justified in this. Now I'm older and wiser and going, I've ruined what can I do? What can I do to soften, to change, to not fight this, to be something different? We have become the called person. That's when this template picks up right here. However, what Joseph Campbell didn't identify is the life template that leads up to that point. He did not identify that. If we went to Genesis, we're going to find two more templates that precede the calling. Noah is the first calling in Genesis, the first part of Genesis. I'm just going to say it looks to me like it's a very old part, all the way up to the Tower of Babel. They still reference in there, it's not even a full monotheism yet. It's still got a little polytheism going on there. But it's got a different sound to it and it's much shorter. But it's stretched out. It's got some stitching going on. There's some weird stuff. The two callings of Noah, the two creation stories. Okay, so the first template is that the creation. Right there, all the way up to Adam and Eve, naked, unashamed in the garden. That's the first template. From nothing all the way up to naked, unashamed in the Garden of Eden. That right there is the template called creation. That is you all the way up to the point that you're a child ready to begin life. Plus, loaded with all of the things necessary. I started earlier, treat it like a game. You're starting to set up the parameters for this you're going to play up here. You're going to also learn that there's cause and effect. The trees grow plants that have seeds that grow more of the same of itself, things that cycle in the day and in the night. All of this, you're going to learn that life is going to cycle, conscious, subconscious, and it's going to be through cause and effect, but you're going to start out at a pure state. Now, from there, we go off to first sin. That is experiencing life and beginning to judge life. From there starts the second template. You will never see a repeat of creation. It's done. The religion will not tolerate a second creation. Creation is over. What it will tolerate is a start of Adam and Eve over and over again. So right here we have Adam and Eve. So right here we have the beginning of each individual. That's male and female, the conscious and the subconscious. And then we go off into the first sin, the division as a result. The consciousness is going to live. Adam is told you're going to live off the land and not reap its full benefits. That's us living our first life, not aware of the fact that we're doing that. We're judging. We're having our life experiences. Up yours, you this, you that, all those kind of things. We're living life, not having full benefits, and we're having pain in childbirth. Our inner self, as it continues to act out these judgments, continue to hurt us. That's not just one time, that's all of the time. We go on, what happens next? We go on and there's tents and pipes, and I don't remember which stories I'm mixing up here. I might have some Enoch in here. The tents, the clay, the pipes, all those sorts of things. We're beginning to have life. We're getting our jobs. We're doing something different. We're pumping gas. We're getting jobs in retail. We're going to college. We're joining the military. We're doing different things at this time in life. That represents that in this story. Then what happens is a lineage. Time goes by. People are born and develop, but what that represents is iterations of us. I started out this person, but as time went on, I became this person. I'm no longer the same person. And there were stages of me along the way. Yet there's still a part of me that can step outside and go, damn it, what is your problem? What are you doing? This conflict is always there. We get all the way up to chapter 6. What has happened is that life has corrupted. The sons of God have corrupted the beautiful daughters of man. Those are our own qualities. My inner selves are corrupted. They're giants. What are they? My love and joy is now up yours. Yeah, get over here. I'll show you. Let me pound a wall. I'll smash this, break that, do something else. There's our Nephilim right there. They were there. They were alive then, and they're alive today. They're never going to go away. Now, right there, some people stop. They're going to live their life right from there, with that continually getting worse. However, if you're a called person, God shows up right at that point. God returns. That's the reconnection. That's the individual that goes, whew, I am not my memories. What am I doing? I'm living through my judgments. I'm living through everything that I believe, that I feel, that I've judged, and I've got to find a way to stop doing that. I didn't feel this way when I was connected with this higher self as a child. Now I feel this horrific way. I need to resolve this ought against my brother. I need to clear the mote from my eye. All of those things come into play at this point. So it is. We've got a creation template all the way up to the beginning of life. Then we got life all the way up to time of destruction. If we go to chapter 12, what we're going to see is the beginning of, like Adam and Eve, we're going to see a creation of life story. We're going to see Abram and Sarai put in Canaan, in a land of Canaan, but there's a famine there, so there's nothing to eat. God leaves. This is a place, this is early in life. There's no experience to be had. What are you going to consume spiritually? I'm sitting here at home playing in a sandbox. At some point you grow up and you leave that behind. So what happens then is we go off and we experience and begin to judge life. And at that point in time, so Abram and Sarai, what is represented in that story is being held in the way that they're going off to experience life, and that the outer self, the consciousness and fear, I don't get that part. Just not paying attention. You're just not even paying attention to what you're picking up along the way. The inner self being married by Pharaoh, and then you getting things in return, represents the point in time in our life where we're just giving up our experiences willy-nilly. I'm collecting this, I'm collecting that. I hate this, I hate that. This crap happens, that crap happens. But we're getting sent along our way by Pharaoh. There's a stage there where you now move along. So there's a pattern that is happening there. It's going to be a bigger story than in Genesis. It's not going to be just up to chapter 6. All the way up till Abram is called is the life story until with Genesis we had Noah being called and the earth needed to be destroyed. In the repeat template happening in Genesis, we have Abraham being called at the time that Sodom needs to be destroyed. So earth, Sodom, both be destroyed, both at the same time of a calling. That represents us saying, I'm going to turn in and destroy my inner self, my inner world, what I have become. I realize I have judged things in a way that I am now wise enough to realize I must unjudge. That's a process that must happen, and that's the healing path. That's when the actual monomyth template picks up, but Joseph Campbell still didn't get it right. He left out things like the cyclical pain. It's not there. That's the reason we go on the trip, because I'm tired of this pain. I'm hanging on to something. Here's how your brain works. I say something like, an anchored ship cannot sail. The dog chained in the yard cannot run away. The goat tied in the tree in the field cannot escape. And then you ask somebody, what is the same about all those stories? What do you see that is the same? Not that it's different, but what do you see that is all of the same in all of them? If you see something in the same of them, the same in all of them, your mind is instantly looking to concepts. You're not looking at that. There are people that look at them and go, yeah, they're different. I don't get it. I don't know what you're talking about. Is it something about being tied up, or I don't get it? The sharp mind is going to look at it and go, you know what? Whatever you're hanging on to, you can't escape from, or anything that you're anchored to, tied to, somehow you're stuck there. They're going to get the concept there that right away, that's what is in those stories. If you read all of them and say, what's the same about them? That's what it is. Whatever you're, and then when you know it's a mental process and that you are the ship, you are the dog, you are the goat, suddenly you got another layer of understanding there. Oh, it's whatever I'm hanging on to, I cannot escape from. Got it. That's a lesson for me. Bingo. They're instantly the same thing. Your brain can do that. There are brains that cannot. All right, this is a huge setup. This is what I think, though. I think that, I don't see any reason that creation is there. I see every reason that we're evolving on this planet, and that what is still happening is through evolutionary processes. But there's a point in time long ago, as society and civilization begins to advance, the cradle of civilization, Sumerian time frame, it looks like before then too, but it hadn't quite advanced. The Göbekli Tepe and other things, there was something else going on. But as far as when we see language being written, what we see is the beginning of a number of things. We see that this is the time that humans began to manage animal husbandry, that we were doing agriculture, that we were doing irrigation, that all of a sudden this difficulty in living became easier. It was not all of a sudden, I'm sure, it probably took hundreds of years, but over a relatively short period of time by comparison, we suddenly had a lot of people. And how do we know this? Because at the same time, we see big temples, pyramids, ziggurats, many different things being built over time. At the same time, civilization is booming. What does that tell us? And also the religions emerge at that same time. But what does that tell us? Suddenly you've got thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of humans that have what? There's no control. What are you going to do? People probably stoning each other in the streets, still fighting. There has to be some sort of law and order put into place. Somebody somewhere has to sit back and go, damn, we're animals. There's a group of people that somewhere figures out what's going on, and they're in the background. And they understand that humanity's not going to get it, that humanity needs some other kind of guidance and control. At the same time, make sure whatever story you give them always permits a way out, because among the population, there's always going to be people that go, hey, I need my way out. So this is going to be there for them to find. So make sure you always build these stories on a human life template and how to heal. Build it on this sequence. Here's creation. Here's how you came about. Here's life cycle. Here's how you came to where you need to heal. Now here's hero's journey. Here's how you turn inward to defeat the enemy and emerge out the other side, and then live life through the flow dictated by the higher awareness that you emerge from, that at some point in time, you're both in the same place anyway. Stop and look at it. You know what? There's something in here besides my memories and my fears and my shame and my pain. That's who I should be nurturing my relationship with and living through. And that's what the material gets to, in a way that for the seeker, you find that way. For the non-seeker, you're going to be fearful. You're going to look outward. You're going to want something. That religion is going to be incredibly important for your sanctity. Up to a point, until we over-evolved, and then that religion becomes something tribal again. It becomes, for many people, the justification to, hey, you guys are not the chosen ones. So, yeah. Anyway, so that all happens there. But that's what I see happening, and that's what I see religion is. But the religion over time has to change. You can't give the same religion to everybody. You have to give them a different carrier case. The one pathway is always the same. It doesn't matter. But you can't give Hinduism to the Egyptians or to, the people in the Bible Belt. You look around the world, you just see so many different people, different beliefs, different cultures, and they're going to say, you know what? I don't like those people. I don't care what their God is. I don't want their God. Oh, that's our God? Our God's better than theirs? Yeah, okay. And that's how it works. When you get outside of it, you go, yeah, I see that's how it works. That the real way out is not that. All of those, doesn't matter. Whether it's Christian, whether it's Hindu, whether it's anything. They're all the way out. Jesus will tell you that it's a different kind of a threshold. It's what is it? It's a narrow gate where only the solitary will enter in. You go alone. This is a personal path. You turn inward. Nobody goes with you. Nobody goes in there and says, here, let me help you clean this up. You're going to feel better when I get done sweeping this mess up for you, or anything like that. You have to go in and say, all of this is inside of my own closets. I've got to go in there and clean out the cobwebs. Nobody else can do that. So what I see happening here is really a psychological process completely, with, nevertheless, physical, emotional, and life flow ramifications in the direction of your thought and of the direction of your emotional state, which is weird. But that's what I see. However, I also see connections in that. Hearing when my brother was dying, hearing Larry's dead, knowing that there's a connection that happens beyond the five senses. I know that that's there. But we know that's highly variable too, right? Jesus says you can't test that stuff. And that's really the way it is. I can sit there and say, yes, I had this experience. I heard Larry's dead before I found my brother. Ooh, magical, mystical. How come nobody else in the house did? How come only I did? How come the little child lost and somebody gets a gut feeling and they go someplace and look and sure enough they find them? Meanwhile, there's 200 searchers out there that didn't get the same gut feeling. Why does it work and sometimes not? And sometimes all those searchers are out there and nobody ever gets a gut feeling. It's very random. We like to say when it happens, oh, there's proof. No, it's evidence of something there. It is. It's there. But It's something we're not really in control of it. However, I think that we can connect better with it by being. The more we carry with us, the more we judge a life through what we carry. The less we carry with us, the more we see life through purity. There's something at a deeper level that's natural, that we all belong to. We can call it God. I'm not going to. I am not going to. It is something, when you do, I think it becomes more difficult to interact with, because you have this sacrilegious or reverent, I can't touch this. It's too big. It's bigger than me. I must be subservient to it. And that's just the wrong way to manage it. We have to be there with it. Without feeling like we're somehow physically something beyond anything, human. We're not. We're just creatures on Earth, in the universe, trying to figure out life, feeling our feelings and trying to sort through them and navigate them in whatever way possible, finding ways. But I think that this was known, and I think that the religions honestly are, that they serve a different purpose. We won't even go into all of the things that Christianity has become. We've talked about that before. But okay, I wanted to say that because I think it's a bigger picture than everything that we're talking about. There is something much bigger going on than at face value. And I see more, I've studied more, but it's just that people can't catch on. It's so boring. Nobody wants to look. It's so long gone. It's there. It's lost. And then those numbers you pick up along the way, it's almost as if you're getting ready to play a game. Here you start, here you begin. Make sure you take cause and effect and cycles with you. Here's how your life turns about. Here's how you turn inward. Boy. At stages along the way, there's ways out. There's 2 trees in the Garden of Eden. We could have taken the other one. Cain and Abel. You could have been Abel instead of Cain. There's a variety of things that happen along the path that we understand. And then as we go to the numbering grids, the analog farms, you could take those read through Genesis, take out that entire Adam 900, take out that entire year block, look at it, perfect flow. You can plug that, you could take that out or plug it in. It was just slammed in there right where the normal lineage fits. The next one, when it comes down to the... what is it? It's not the Terra. I can't remember who it is. Anyway, it's right after it's adjacent to the analog farm after, it's chapter 11 after Babel. So anytime there's a normal life sequence where time goes by, that's where they're plugging in the analog farms. Those are places along the way. If you went to a room in a game where you're like, okay, look around here and gather up all of the things you need for your adventure, that's what you're doing here. You stop and gather up these numbers. You're going to need them for the pathway. That's how I read it, although that seems kind of sacrilegious, doesn't it? It kind of works that way. But it does. It works that way. And it changes one's life in a different way than looking at it going, why did Abram give up his wife? What a weak, spineless man. Then as Abraham does the same thing as with Sarah and his son Isaac, got to chip off the old block, give up Rebecca. You see a change that goes along the way, though. Those are iterations of us improving along the way. Anyway, but to not interpret them is kind of creepy, honestly. All right, you know what? I should end this video because I know it got long. This is hard, but this is a big thing too. It's really important. It's so much bigger than what we see. All right. Hope it was informative. See you in the next video. Did you make it this far? Let me show you this. This is the King James Bible, Genesis. Noah. Noah's name is repeated 41 times in Genesis. What I'm going to do now is drop to an older teaching from the Babylonians called the Enuma Elish, the 7 tablets of creation. It preceded Genesis. Let's go to the Enuma Elish. All right, here we have it. And if you're with me on the video so far, Noah was the first called hero in Genesis. When we go through the Babylonian creation myth, we're going to come up with a character named Marduk who has to come in and do all the destruction. He's going to be the one that destroys everything. In the story of Noah, Noah is not the destructor. He's the one that is on the other side. God is the one that destroys. Here we have God giving power to Marduk to do it. Marduk is the called hero in the earlier version. His name is repeated 41 times. Is that a coincidence? Marduk, the called hero, 41 times in the Enuma Elish. Noah, the called hero 41 times in Genesis. Not through the work in Genesis, not through this video, but other works. First sin, 8. The number 8 represents that step into first sin. Beyond 7, the next step. What happens if we go into the Enuma Elish and begin looking there? What we're going to find is, if we read through here, that there is a destructive element. A destructive element named Lady Huber. She's the one who creates all of the dangerous creatures. Lady Huber, 8 times. Evil, Lady Huber. All right, I don't need to go on. I'm just going to tell you that the numbering pattern that is in here, if you keep going through there, it'll keep happening. This numbering pattern to follow, to keep the story straight, to keep it on a certain pattern, preceded Jewish material. They've got that from the Babylonians. They're working together in the background. They're not enemies. You enemies of the Babylonians? You think they're bad? The Tower of Babel came down because they were bad people? Yeah, bad people. They all spoke together and wanted to reach God, so God said, the hell with that. So let us go down and destroy that. So here's God saying, since you're working together and there's peace on earth and you're trying to reach me, I'm going to come and destroy you and scatter you out. Whose side are you on? I would interpret this story. It's pretty tribal if you don't. It represents us, the tower that we build. We become divided. It all follows the same pattern. You got to turn it inward. It's all about us. I am that. I am. You are that. You are. All of us are that. We are. All right. As a final comment here, I guess I will leave off by saying that when it comes to reading the Bible with any religious or doctrinal interpretation is just not where I go. To me, it doesn't go far enough, but at the same time, I realize it's a difficult transition. I can remember reading through complex stories and getting to an interpretation point where, it's like, oh, that big old story means I turn into my memories and I heal them. I remember at times, several times, thinking to myself, what, that's it? That's all the story means right there. It became starkly, at some point, clear that these simple human procedures are made on monstrous big stories that are very much intended in olden times to... This was the media for millions of humans at one time, in a different time, in a different place. We're so disconnected from them, we don't get it. And there's things in there we don't see. I think that they're there. They're put there purposefully. They are not hidden from us. We're meant to find them if you're the one that can find them. Or if you can help. Maybe not everybody's going to find them, but if you see them and somebody else points them out, we can get access to them again. We know that they're there. They were put there for us. When you look, you go, They're not trying to hide that from us. It's there. They're not telling us it's there. We're not reading anything different in the material. We're just looking at it in a different way. We're looking at what is really there and analyzing why it's there and finding things there that people that are really full of themselves with the Bible are clueless. It's bigger than the hero knows. All right. It's going to be up to us simple folk.